Now we're going to slow down for a minute and talk about something important, rest and relaxation.
Bango doesn't do that.
He doesn't know those words. The Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say that insufficient rest is a public health epidemic. That sounds serious, doesn't it? So what does it mean to truly rest? How much is enough, and how can you get more of it?
That's right. Dr. Adam Miller is an integrative physician, dentist, and cosmetic surgeon. And on his website, you'll find video blogs because he believes we need to take charge of our health and avoid those risks.
That's right.
Good morning, Dr. Miller.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Fascinating. You're a physician, a dentist, and a cosmetic. I mean, was there any medical type degree you didn't get?
Not a lot of rest in there, actually. 16 years of training and a whole lot of educational debt there.
Yeah.
But one thing it did teach me is the value of when you can rest, you have to get it.
Yeah.
You know, it's this essence of resiliency, right? That the world keeps telling us that we need to be in on mode. We really only have two gears. It's park and it's fifth gear, right? But to have any resilience, we have to take advantage of times of rest. So we talk about rest in terms of times of less reactivity, energy conservation, reducing stimuli, and this thing we call time calibration. Using those smartphones for something other than surfing the net, but actually using that to, you know, I tell guys, set your phone for 7 minutes, put it aside, and do something good for your mind and your body, right?
I think that's hard for people to do. And I think differentiating between rest and sleep or rest and relaxing is something that I'd like you to define, because a lot of people say, well, are you talking about meditation? Are you talking about just sitting there and zoning out, watching TV or reading a book? How do you define rest?
Well, I think the rest of the story is really thinking about...
Good one!
I liked it. I like that.
It's rest during the waking hours, right? We all know that when we are asleep, that there's a form of rest in that. But it's what about the rest of the day when we're awake? The message that we get is that if you're awake, you need to be maximally productive. But the truth is, if during the waking hours you aren't finding time to reduce your reactivity, you know, you don't need
What does that mean, reduce your reactivity?
You don't need to set a world record when you're responding to that text, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Or you guys have a competition going on?
Well, well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I get a little
Let me get my
competitive about my
phone.
texting time.
Yes.
I want the app that measures that so that I can show objectively patients. Look, in the last week, it took you 1.2 seconds to respond to that text. But reducing reactivity, if an email pops into your Outlook, you don't have to respond to it right away. Energy conservation. You know, this brain of ours is only 3% of our total body weight, but it consumes up to 25% of our energy. So focus is a way to reduce cortisol and help usher in or prime the body for better sleep later.
All right, so let's break it down a little bit, because you mentioned a lot of things. Cortisol, for example, is a stress hormone that a lot of people are familiar with. But first, just define rest. So you talked about reducing reactivity. So not just being like you always got to be on top of everything like that. But what does it mean to rest? And what are some examples of true rest in everyday life?
Yeah, I think the main thing for people to focus on is that during the waking hours, you know, there are things that we can do or should do that help reduce cortisol and switch us between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Now, not to get too technical, but you have to understand that simultaneously you have both an on nervous system and a rest or an off nervous system that are at work. And if you need a motivation to really figure out how to do that better, one of the keys to great sex is actually learning to modulate between those two nervous systems. So the absence of rest during the waking hours may mean that things aren't quite as good in the bedroom, okay? Rest is anything that reduces reactivity, allows you to conserve energy, push back on stimuli, and actually modulate time, better appreciate the value of time.
How much rest do we need? When you're talking about getting a moment of rest, is this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes?
It's a great question. You know, I think the new era of medicine is all about patient empowerment. And part of that is learning to self-assess. So what was the load? What was the stress load on you that you need to recover from? If we think about rest as being valuable for recovery and building resilience, what was your load? If you tell me you exercised, was that a walk in the park? Or did you do a triathlon? So understanding the load that was put on your system. In other words, how much time did you spend in the stress, that fight or flight sympathetic nervous system? And then using that as a gauge for how much time you need to recover.
This is going to be tough for moms watching right now. They're like, I have kids. A lot of them have jobs. It's go, go, go all the time. And they're like, how am I going to get rest? What are everyday ways that we can get rest? You mentioned setting a timer for 7 minutes. And doing what? Meditate? Praying? What are you talking about?
I think it's the highest value is starting with breath.
Yeah.
Actually, so if you expand the diaphragm, you've heard of belly breathing, yoga breathing. The value there is that you necessarily stretch and activate something called the vagus nerve, not VEGAS, but VAGUS nerve, okay? And that necessarily sends a rest signal to the brain, the heart, and the rest of the body. So just focusing on breathing alone is probably the greatest value for getting good rest. But then pushing back on stimuli, you know, we are seeing more and more light at night.
Yes.
Light at night causes you a suppression of melatonin, makes it harder for you to sleep.
You're talking about that blue light from our devices.
Yeah,
Really.
it is, you're right, it's the blue wavelength of light that causes that suppression of melatonin. So pushing back on all the light, background noise in our environment continues to rise. I love my noise canceling headphones. And then just remembering the value, you know, of time.
Is that what you brought? Is that what that is right there?
Yeah, so you mentioned meditation,
cool.
and it's, you know, it's a great concept, right? But we're not Buddhist monks. We all have many things going on in the brain.
Hard to quiet your thoughts.
It is, and to get a patient to, you know, empty their mind of everything is really hard. So this represents one of the wearables or biofeedback tools, the technology pieces that we have available. It makes practicing medicine exciting in the year 2016. This is called Muse. If you've never heard of it, you put it on here, and it measures your brain waves, and it pops up in your smartphone. And it tells you how well you're focusing, how well you're relaxing.
Really?
By giving you audible feedback. So
No way.
If you're
Is that
relaxed,
telling you there?
it's doing something right now.
I just heard that.
Yeah.
Can I hold this up?
Yeah. You
Okay. So this is telling you something.
Either that or a text you just got.
Yeah, you might have just got a
Yeah, right.
text. But it's telling you something on your phone, right? I'm sorry.
Right. So what it does is it gives you an audible feedback. It's the sound of tide coming in and out. And as
Okay.
long as you are in a relaxed state, it's gonna remain a tide, okay? But as soon as you get distracted and start having too much head chatter, it's gonna turn into a storm sound, and it'll drift you. Now, if you get really relaxed, you'll hear birds chirping. So
So
it's
it really
a
helps
meditation
keep
tool.
you accountable and monitor how effective you are at resting.
Yeah.
How did you learn all this?
I wish I could say it was you know, a passion place of mine that I chose, but the truth is, I ran the rat race until I broke my body. I was stuck in fifth gear. And you know, if we use that car analogy, if we're always in fifth gear, it's really hard to downshift later. The gears get sticky, and that happens in your nervous system. The truth is, too much of a good thing is bad, right? And I was living my dream in Southeast Asia, working as a cosmetic surgeon and making a lot of money, could do anything I wanted at any time. And the problem is I got stuck in fifth gear. You know, I was operating 10, 12-hour days, 5 days a week. And I started having a difficult time waking up in the morning. Friday evenings, I would get home from the operating room, I would fall on the couch, and I would wake up to go to the bathroom and be like, yeah, I'm going to bed. My weekends were turning into not just rest, but sleep. Had hair start to fall out, lost some weight. We were in the jungle, and we slaughtered a wild boar. And I think we undercooked it a little bit, and I ended up getting some parasites. So high stress, lack of rest, weakens our immune system, and it makes us what I call a susceptible host, and that was me. So I got parasites, nobody else in that group got sick, but for me it was devastating. So losing weight, energy problems, brain fog, it forced me to come back to the US and try to heal myself. And it was then that I realized that, you know, rest in all forms is necessary. It's such
so
a dirty
powerful.
four-letter word here, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're awake and you're resting, that must mean you're weak.
Yeah, or lazy.
Or
Right.
lazy
Nobody
or
wants to
not
feel that.
productive.
Right.
We ran out of time, but I want to make sure everybody's got your website so they can learn more. Do you also have information about those tools that you talk about there?
Yep.
And he has a lot of great video blogs on his website, and that's how I found out about you, is just watching. I particularly liked the video blog about rest, and you got a lot of other good ones about your Fitbit. I just saw in there more recently.
Yeah.
It's arisemd.com/culture is where people can find out more about Dr. Adam and all the great information that he has to share from personal experience. Great to meet you. Please come back.
Thank
would
you. I'd love to.
That'd be
Thanks a
great.
lot.
We can't promise Bango's going to be here every time, but thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Great to meet you.